operation and sale of alcoholic beverages at outdoor public places and special events. Running confiscation clause, conflict clause, severability clause, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Commissioner comments?
Uh,
Commissioner McBoyd?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood some parts of this. The parts relating to open container, I'm certainly very much in prohibitions against that. And am I correct in understanding that in general this tightens up our open container laws a bit more than they used to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that part I'm very much in favor of. Can you remind me again about the beer garden and things sponsored by the city part? What kind of beverages are included and what are the, in broad terms, the allowed things that were not previously allowed?
Well, breaking up the city into the different areas. For example, Bryant Park, there are certain rules for Bryant Park. Cities produce special events, and the beer garden requirements, for example, certain different rules. So I don't know if I'm going to go through each section, but for example, beer gardens, all beer gardens, this is on section 4 on page 8. All beer garden applications have to be submitted and processed as set forth in the special event handbook. They have to have beer, wine, and frozen drinks shall not be removed from the beer garden area. No person shall possess any open container with an intoxicating beverage in the area outside of the beer garden. So those kind of restrictions, kind of building a picket fence, so to speak, around that. I don't know if you have any other specific ones, because each section has a little bit of a different restrictions. For example, in the beer gardens, again, you can't bring one alcoholic beverage into the beer garden, just like you can't take one out, you can't bring one in.
I guess my only concern is, and it may be a linguistic thing, but when I hear beer garden, I'm thinking beer. But when I read the fine print, I'm into frozen drinks and mixed drinks and things. I understand it's all alcohol, maybe it doesn't matter that much, but it does seem a little bit of a slide from low percentage alcohols into a bit more serious stuff. And it's not something I'm very comfortable with. As I said, I am very comfortable with tightening up the open container laws for downtown. I guess, yeah. Everybody else, I think I voted against it last time, if I remember right. I suspect that you're all in favor of it, so.
It's not about being in favor of it, it's that most events that are placed in any other city or municipality anywhere else has the same types of things. It's not like we're doing anything that isn't happening at every other festival or event all over Palm Beach County. It's not, we're actually restricting it to certain things because there weren't restrictions in the way it was worded in the past, that it could be taken loosely and not enforced at all. So we're trying to solidify that side of it by still doing what's necessary. It's not about whether you support drinking or don't support drinking. It doesn't, these processes happen at all major public events. It's not like we're inventing the wheel here.
Would it be possible to build in any sort of a revisit after a year or 2 years and see how well it's working?
The commission always has the authority to look at any ordinance anytime in the future. In fact, there was an ordinance, and you see the strike through. There was restrictions on things not that different than this ordinance. This ordinance just really tweaks what was in place and really talks a little more specifically about not taking beverages in and out of beer gardens or in and out of Bryant Park when there's a special event.
And I think it's our job to review things that are not working on a regular basis. If we make it, if it's our job to basically review everything that we instate and to make sure it's working or not working on a regular basis. If something's wrong with that immediately and we sense a problem, then let's talk about it. We don't have to wait a year to do it. We do it when we find that there's a problem. That's our job. Commissioner Maruso.
And I just wanted to support the mayor and her thought pattern as far as we're just trying to bring it up to the same level as every other city, Delray, West Palm Beach, and that's coming from the non-drinker. I don't care whether there's liquor or not, but I know that to be on the same level as every other city and and as we're moving forward with signature events, we need to be on the same level so we can compete with these other cities.
Commissioner Zerdy.
Also, I wanted to understand the anybody that's gonna be working, persons involved in that, have to go through, alcohol abuse awareness program.
Yes, that's true.
So that's different, and to be aware, Commissioner McBoy, of, that kind of situation that could happen. I think frozen drinks already been sold at, I've seen them at a number of our events already, so that's the only thing different than beer and wine. But that's correct?
Yes, yes.
Something new.
That's something new. I want people to understand that's gonna be something that any volunteer, so that's gonna be a little bit, tough for us to work out as far as logistics, but it's in here, and we're gonna do it.
So all
Commissioner
volunteers,
McBoy?
all volunteers will have to do alcohol awareness.
Training.
Yes.
On,
So the
line
page 9,
yes.
all persons involved in the operation of those
Do
different.
we really think this will happen?
It has to. Commissioner Mercer?
Absolutely, downtown on Clematis, on their Thursday night events, and we've had in the past where we've had neighborhood associations come out and run the beer trucks. It's not something that we're doing, it's something that alcohol and tobacco is now doing, and all neighborhood associations, any nonprofit groups that want to benefit from it, just like they do on Clematis, they go and it's a basic training to tell you who, what, where. Same thing we do with the health department, things like that, it's basic training.
Well,
Helps with insurance.
all right.
Helps with insurance as well. Okay, public comments, and do we have any cards?
Yes.
Peter Tim, followed by Suzanne Squire.
My last chance to be not listened to as a public citizen. It is a shame that you are fixing something that isn't broken. We serve liquor we serve cocktails at all of our events. It's called the beer garden, and everybody can go in and have what they want, drink it there and leave. Why you want to spread it out through the whole area down there is beyond me. I cannot figure out how you say that this is an improvement. Now, it may sell a few more bottles of something or other, but it is not an improvement. It's not an improvement to see somebody who's had one too many staggering around out there. That is not an improvement, and I don't call that an improvement. I do my drinking at home where nobody knows how drunk I get. And I'm going to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Suzanne Squire. Declaration of Independence speaks of acts of pretended legislation. Competing with businesses you are elected and paid to protect is simply theft and an act of printed legislation. Printed? That's what she wrote? Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Sharp, followed by Justin Zaks.
I love this. I am so for this. I couldn't tell you how much I'm for this. I have been to Bryant Park at every festival for years and years and years, and I have seen nonprofits run the beer garden, and people fall on their face. I have seen non-nonprofits run the beer garden, and people fall on their face. If I want to have a drink, and it's sponsored by the city, I certainly will have a drink. You won't make one that I'll drink at the beer garden, because you won't make a Bloody Mary and you won't make pina colada. But I'll have those at home. But Commissioner McRoy and I both like champagne,
That's true, we do.
very much so. So Commissioner
correct
McRoy,
statement.
I would really suggest you vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zaks?
Thank you, Dustin Dex, 216. I object to the regulation as written. If we look at 15-27.5, subsection 2. Sure. Is this the one? Is this the other?
It doesn't matter.
I think, yeah,
Okay,
you're
right on, thank you. If we look at the regulation which is attached to your agenda, 15-27.5, subsection 2, that's the section describing what can be consumed at special events, not just particularly in the beer garden, so for example, the street painting festival, that kind of thing. That describes only beer, wine, and frozen drinks. So I ask you now, in socially tolerant, accepting late work, I'm asking you why we're making a distinction between beer, wine, and mixed drinks. am I more likely to cause mischief when drinking a mixed drink at the street painting festival than when drinking a tasty Bud Light? No, no. And as Commissioner McVoy always asks, can we point to any empirical evidence to show that this is the case, to show that mixed drinks cause additional health risks? I don't think we can. There is, however, evidence, empirical evidence of health risks due to our large cat population. That health risk would include conjunctivitis, encephalopathy, bacillary peliosis, and bacillary angiomatosis. These are all possible symptoms of cat scratch fever, also known as cat scratch disease. The proper name is inoculation lymphoreticulosis. So, if we're going to be in the business of prohibiting anything, we should be prohibiting the cats that can spread these plagues. Therefore, I say that we should say yes to permitting mixed drinks at special events, like the Street Painting Festival, and we should say no to cats on the streets.
How about if we just say no to alcoholic cats?
Order in this room. Oh, where's my gavel? I want order. Alrighty then. Any commissioner comments? And I think it's also important, Mr. Tim, to realize that it's not open container all the time in the downtown. It's only at city-sponsored events. I just wanted to make that clear again. It's not haywire, willy-nilly. It's only at city-sponsored events. Okay. All right, we've got a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Alrighty, unfinished business has been completed. And the new business at hand, 12A, ordinance number 2013-42. That's where it comes in, Mr. Torcivia. Hit it.
Ordinance number 2013-42 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 7, Beaches, Parks, and Recreation, Article 2, Beach Parking, Section 7-18 and 7-19, and Chapter 21, Traffic, Article 2, Parking, Stopping, and Standing, to revise said sections of Article 2 consistent with the new use of all beach parking areas east of the Intracoastal, and to reflect changes associated with the addition of parking meter pay stations, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of laws of conflict, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, over the last several years, the complex and surrounding beach area have undergone major renovations, which included a new traffic flow pattern and parking reconfiguration. In 2013, the beach complex was reopened, which resulted in an increase in vehicular traffic into the beach area. As a result of the new traffic flow pattern and parking reconfiguration, staff believes that it would be in the public's best safety interest to amend the current codes to be consistent with the new use of all beach parking areas. Furthermore, in reviewing existing ordinances, city staff found the need to remove obsolete language and update language in both Article 2, Chapter 7, beach parking, and Chapter 21 relating to stopping, standing, parking, and enforcement to meet the needs of visitors, tenants, and employees parking in the beach area. I think, Mr. Zaks, your last visit, you made a comment to one of those points. So on the floor is a move to approve or disapprove the ordinance. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Any commissioner questions before public comment? Commissioner McVoy.
I had a few specific ones, some maybe just I didn't understand it right. On page, in the full notes back up, page 153, line 117, we had discussed earlier that we've always had something about backing into spaces up there, and I think there was discussion that maybe there wasn't a big problem with that. I believe 117 says you can't back in if you would block a sidewalk or pedestrian passage. So if you don't block those, you can back in, is that correct understanding? Which I assume means most places you could back in?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, but I never understood why people didn't like us backing in. It seems harmless as far as I know. Okay, so that's a specific one. Again, I'm not the best on vehicles, but on page 153, line 129, it's prohibited to have vehicles greater than 1 ton. Can somebody tell me, and pardon my ignorance here, an F-150 or 250 or 350, are those less than 1 ton? Because I see those around all the time, people seem to drive them.
Is the 350 and above?
3/4 ton, 350 is 3/4.
Okay.
Okay, so
It's
a 1 ton is
It's a
a,
major service, yeah, 450.
okay, fine.
Yeah, 350 is a 1 ton.
I never got about 2.
350s a one-ton?
Dual wheels, I think is what they're referring to.
Thank you, expert in the back row.
For all the experts
It's Chip.
Quiet in the chambers, quiet, I shouldn't have said anything.
Got a couple more, on page 154, line 148. You can't park, commercial vehicles can't be there for more than 20 minutes. I just wondered if that's enough for businesses if you're loading for some, I don't know, it seems a little short if you're a business, you might need more than that. I'm looking to other people to give me some feedback on that.
No, you're probably gonna have the restaurant equipment guys, and I think they'll be pretty loose with that, they're just not gonna, it's just there to prevent them from staying there all day and dropping off their soda supplies and then hitting the beach for a couple of hours.
No, I understand, and that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that could be,
We'll be judicious.
we'll be judicious.
All right, you might wanna change it to 30 or something other, just to avoid the hassle, but, line 152, buses are only allowed on the lower part. I'm wondering if senior citizens are very happy with that one. Why do we not wanna have the bus? If I remember right, back in the old days, when we had a much less nice beach, the bus did loop around and let people off up above. No?
Yeah.
I seem to remember seeing it there. I'm seeing some nod yeses.
Yes, they can't get around the roundabout.
City manager?
I had a meeting with Mr. Cohen at Cotrain, Palm Train, Cotrain. And right now, they physically are having trouble doing the loop. It probably shouldn't honestly reflect this because eventually we'd like to see them come around. But physically, they can't do it, and they won't make the left-hand turn movement off of A1A into the southern entrance to go up and around. So they're coming in the bottom and just exiting. They're not actually making the loop like we wanted them to do. So.
Do we really wanna write in that they're
No, I don't
prohibited?
think that's a good idea, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Commissioner Boyd.
Yeah, it should be prohibited, that doesn't make sense.
So that's lines
152?
152, and then there's a section,
154, sorry.
I have marked 151 to 164. Did we clear this with Paul Tran? And I guess you looked at it some. But I just know that senior citizens might well want to get up at the top, and if we can accommodate that physically, I think we should. And then my last one is page 157, lines 303 to 311, and this one I was confused about. It should be unlawful for any person to park a trailer, camper, pop-up, and a whole string of things like trailers and camping cabins, boat trailers, on any street or alley in a residential district. So that section doesn't relate to the beach, is that correct? Because I think we parked.
That was taken from another ordinance.
Yeah, this just doesn't the beach by itself.
That's written, it looks like it's written in from another ordinance.
This is the existing ordinance. We're looking at 21-36, that's an existing ordinance, that's not new for the beach, that's just what's already on the books.
Yeah, I wondered
How
about
does that
that.
relate to the beach project?
It doesn't really relate to the beach.
And what is the,
Because you're not amending, you're not amending anything.
No?
This is amending our beach policy.
I don't know, all I can say is I found it in there and I thought, that doesn't seem to match with what currently happens in our city. And I remember in the past, it was something that caused a good deal of consternation at one point that we would. So I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other, but I was surprised to read it there.
Is it misplaced in this ordinance?
In light of all these questions, I think the best suggestion is bring this back for first reading, let's redo this a little bit.
Yeah.
Address some of the comments that have been made, maybe any other comments, so we get them all, and then we'll bring it back for first reading.
Okay.
But that was, there's
It
language,
looks like that.
there's language in that section that's amended, you've got the whole section, and if you'll see at the bottom, C as well as being added, but there's enough changes.
Looking at the amended version.
I'm looking at the backup that's on the
We get a
website.
copy of the amended ordinance of this one, on top of here. If he's not reading this one.
I'm reading the backup
Is it-
that I
is it
got
on-
off the website, so
Has been the amended version put on the website?
Yes, the amended version was put on the website in addition to each one getting a hard copy.
Okay, just double checking and make
So
sure.
you should be looking at the
Okay.
amended version.
But why don't we?
This was on my desk, that's why this is.
yeah, I went with the
Okay.
website. What was on
So
it?
if you want, Madam Mayor, why don't we just take any other comments, so we got everybody's comments, and then
Okay.
we'll revise this and bring it back to first reading.
Okay. Commissioner Amoroso, and then Commissioner Sardi.
To the buses, I don't know what buses you met with at Pump Train, because, you know, we need to look at bringing the buses back to the beach. However we get them there, I don't know what size buses are running, but I can tell you, I've met 3 different groups that I've escorted to the beach, on a bus that holds at least 50 people. And it pulls right up on the top, lets the people out, they were elderly, it makes the complete loop, so I don't know what.
There are specific regulations for the kneeling buses and the ADA access and where they drop their passengers. It's a lot more complicated than a private bus.
Okay,
And so it's not physically the same.
okay, so on that, I wanna make sure that we don't
Correct.
we make sure that we can get private buses up there and then
Regardless.
deal with. And then the other thing, with parking on the streets and everything, we really need to look at that, because, you know, I disagree with some of the things that are going on with boating and with, you know, we are a beach town. We should be able to have boats, we should be able to park our trailers, if we're pulling the boat out, to take the boat out, you know, the trailer's going to probably be there for a couple hours, so we need to look at some of that.
Let's look at that another time, because that's a whole other conversation.
Well, but that's in this ordinance.
Yeah, it seems to be in there.
Well, that's what I'm saying, I don't personally think that
It's
that
in the
piece
sections
should be in
that
that
we're
ordinance.
amending relating to the beach.
Well, but if we're gonna amend it, should we amend everything at the same time, or should we come back and look at that?
Or split them out as 2 different
Split,
ordinances or
that,
something.
that piece does not pertain to the beach,
Okay.
it doesn't.
No.
So,
We, the
We've got that.
section that's being amended is in there. It has language that covers other parking regulations. It's being amended to reflect the beach changes.
okay,
It's not an easy
Okay.
Let us bring it back.
got it. Commissioner Surdy?
Thank you. I think you got a sandwich situation here. You've got parts of regulations that apply to the beach, but our other pieces are in between those as you go far. That's why you had to extend this to
Correct.
section 21. So that, I mean, you're just looking at those related. So we can
You
just.
got your whole parking regulations and embedded within them.
Right.
Yeah.
As your beach
Yeah.
regulations.
I just happened across it and thought,
So to that regard, I would say that we also have something that is specific to the beach, which are the parking as it relates, this is on, let me see, I'm looking, I had my notes on the one before you amended this. So this is on I, 2135,
Subsection
I.
For special events.
No.
Yes, that's now in line 294.
Yeah.
It says, for special events as declared by the city and for all uses of the casino ballroom, which shall not be lawful, it's kind of like a double negative. And then we have that have a meaning, I don't think we meant for anything that ever goes on in the ballroom to not have to deal with parking or pay for the parking. So I think it could be reworded to be designated events that could benefit from that, because
Agreed.
Because they are paying for parking.
they are paying for parking, and that says to the contrary.
Well,
That would
yeah,
be
it makes
a
it totally illegal to charge for parking.
Yeah, so I'm just saying circle that one
Got it.
as well, thank you. And then in regard to the backing in to the spaces, that was also on, so you have that in that one section, but you also have that listed in
Section
209.
209, yeah, I saw that too.
So if, I don't know what's the pleasure of the commission, but, you know, backing in, if somebody wants to make that move before, or you're gonna back out and make the move after.
As long as they're not blocking the sidewalk.
So I think as long as they, and it's clear, then we have to have some signage that says, if you back in, don't block the sidewalk, right?
and just,
Commissioner Amoroso, and then Lucas.
So that would be my only concern about that, to deliberate on that.
And my only other question, as we're moving forward in cleaning up the process, we've heard over and over that the beach is its separate entity, and it's being run almost like a separate business with its own line items, everything. Mr. Attorney, should we look at splitting this and actually creating a
That's
whole
exactly-
beach piece?
I kind of was thinking the same thing.
Because this is gonna keep coming up in different forms.
Yeah.
So as we move forward with the beach, if the beach is truly separate, let's make these pieces separate so
I
we have
agree.
clear direction.
Yeah.
So there isn't any confusion.
Yeah.
Any
Seems
changes
like a
that would
good
be
idea.
made, it's all intact.
Right, could we get address,
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Zerdy?
So we can address those other, can we still put it at some point in time to come back to the parking? Because I'm a boater, I do have my boat parked behind my house, off of the alley, out of the sight, out of the way, but I've seen trailers of boat parked on the streets in our city. I know I've seen them there, they're even on Palm Way, and I don't think that works for us, to have boats, trailers permanently parked in the streets.
That's another conversation.
Yes.
All right, we've got enough conversations that we have here on this agenda already.
Okay, well, we can have,
I just
Commissioner
add
McGlynn?
one clarification. If that, and I'm a little puzzled about that, and blocking pedestrian access. If you back in, do you block differently than if you forward in?
Well, some vehicles
Hang on.
from the rear to the axle sticks out further than the front, like on a truck with a hitch and a bumper. When you back in,
Okay,
you get.
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
The answer is
Yeah,
yes.
all right. Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so we're gonna table that, so let's move on.
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
If I could have a motion and a second, if the motioner
Should
and
be
the seconder
removed.
would be withdrawn.
I agree.
Second, withdrawn?
you.
Thank you. Item 12B, City Attorney, could you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Ordinance number 2013-45, a general appropriation ordinance of the City of Lake Worth Municipal Corporation of the State of Florida making separate and several appropriation amendments for necessary operating expenses, the expense of the various funds and departments of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2012 and ending September 30, 2013, and providing for the effective date thereof.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Public comment?
It's 12B.
Yes.
Okay. Justin Zaks, followed by Loretta Sharp.